is going on? I want to welcome you from half court for today, Wednesday, January 11th, 2023. I am your host, Sean Murphy, alongside my guy, Bald Boy Jeff Iafredi. Jeff, your dumbass decided to bet on the Michigan Wolverines, and now that beautiful hair of yours is gone.
Yeah, I went from JJ Redick to like almost Alex Caruso. So I don't know. I had JJ Redick here. I liked my hair a lot. Never had it this short, but I did. I put my hair on the line.
Dude, you went from JJ Redick to Juan Toscano Anderson.
Yeah. Oh my God. Hopefully I don't have his hairline as well. Jesus Christ. No, but you know what? This is a lesson for me. Don't. And Uncle T kind of educated me on this as well. He's like, young man, why would you ever place a bet on Michigan? And I'm like, I don't know. I had faith in a university that hasn't proven to me.
Well, why even say the words, if they lose, I'll shave my head?
Yeah, that wasn't the bet. I should have been like, I'll laugh. You know, I should have said something like simple. Yeah,
or even just like hyperbole, like I'll jump off a bridge, because no one would expect you to jump off a bridge.
Yeah, like Braylon said he'd kill himself. I don't know. That's obviously not the case. So,
okay, well, that's different. Jeff.
No, I'm saying like you're not. What are you going to tell him to kill himself? I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Exactly. I'm the one still here. It's my guy. I'm kidding.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
The hair is something you can actually you can just do. I mean, I said stop being a bitch. Let's just cut it off. It'll come back in a couple months. And by then, now I have a reason. I have a villain story. I can root against Michigan now because they took my hair that one time.
Yeah, 100%. This is like your dark Anakin arc here, Jeff. You know what I mean? But hey, you're still beautiful to me, Jeff, and it's good to have you here.
Sorry.
Also beautiful to me is the guy on the bottom of our screen, our man, Troy Sergey. Troy, it's good to see you as always, my friend.
Good to see you, man. Yesterday was a little bit tough for me as a Packer fan. Y'all deserved it, though. I'll give you that. But I'm happy for you guys. But I am also sad for you guys because I would have rather have seen you guys make the playoffs, represent the NFC North than those Seahawks of Seattle. I would much rather be cheering for the Lions in the postseason than anyone else. They're probably the second or third favorite team next to the Colts since I live here. But I cheer for the Packers in most cases. Certainly not. I mean, sorry, the Lions in most cases, but definitely not last night. But I mean, I guess the $1 million question is, Aaron Rodgers, was that his last game?
I'll just say, in a city that has been deprived of great sports moments over the course of the last 5+ years, that is probably one of my favorite Detroit sports moments, period, but probably my favorite Lions moment because, you know, to me, like, I'll just say really quickly and we'll talk about basketball because that's what you're here to listen to. That felt like a team evolving and becoming something different. And it felt like a coming out party for the organization about how they've grown and evolved and the talent they've acquired. It felt like a coming out party for Dan Campbell to say, hey, y'all can make fun of me and do the kneecap bit all you want and think of me as a jock dumbass, but I'm actually one of the smartest head coaches in the NFL. And, you know, to also, you know, see an organization, you know, that you know, you've just, you know, that I've just, you know, cried about and been angry about and just has caused so many different emotions, and just see something that you want to be great, you know, finally taking steps and doing something that you just haven't seen them do. I mean, Jeff, I don't know about you, man, but it was just, I mean, I haven't seen that before. Like, and yes, we saw glimpses of that with like the Matt Stafford, Calvin Johnson Lions, but like, Jeff, I don't know about you, but even I felt like there was a ceiling with that team.
Yeah, it just feels different. I think the youth of the team has something to do with it as well. But I echo everything you said. And on top of that, too, Troy, you mentioned you're a fan of the Colts, or you root for them. Yeah. Can you tell Jim Irsay to stay the hell out of Detroit, away from our coordinators? Can you do that for me?
Yeah.
He's interviewing our coordinators. I don't like that. All right? Yeah. These guys, listen, I want them to succeed in life, but not this season. All right.
And also the Houston Texans, like the gall to say, hey, we're going to fire 2 guys a year, like after 1 year, like back to back. But hey, Ben Johnson, come in for an interview. No, get the hell out of here. But
get out of here.
Yeah. Get out of here
Ben
with
Johnson's
that.
my man crush, man. You stay away from him.
Oh, yeah,
I would
100%.
say, though, the Colts were the most disappointing team, in my opinion, this season.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
With Jeff Saturday? Come on.
Well, that was a halfway through the season.
I know.
This ain't from the 50-yard line, damn it. This is from F Court Reach, and every week we talk all things basketball. If you like that, be sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share the podcast with your friends. Also, be sure you join in the conversation down below. Follow my guys on social media at Jeff Iafrady, at TroySurgy44. And if you're feeling oh so generous, you can follow myself at Sean Court. But gentlemen, it's after a beautiful weekend of football. You know, for me, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I think, you know, like now that, you know, we're past that game and the closure of that Lions game. Now that we're past and know that DeMar Hamlin is out of Cincinnati, is out of that Cincinnati hospital and is back in Buffalo, I feel much more focused and much more energized to talk about some basketball. And guys, we are a month away officially as of the date of this recording from the NBA trade deadline. February 9th, 2023 is going to be bananas because we have no idea as of right now how many different organizations could be making a change. We don't know to what scale these teams could be making changes. Could we perhaps see teams positioning to tank and get their name in the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes like we talked about before the season? 100% that's going to happen. But also, more importantly, what are some of these other teams going to do? How are some of these other bottom teams going to sell? Namely, the Detroit Pistons, which obviously, if you listen to this podcast, we always start this pod talking about Detroit. So guys, there's been a lot of conversation around the Pistons Twitter sphere. And I'm feeling some deja vu. All I'm hearing on Twitter is how we need to trade Bojan we need to strike while the iron's hot. According to Jake Fisher, rival executives have said that the Pistons want a first-round pick and a good young player. However, that's just conjecture. Who knows what these rival executives actually are? Who knows if that's what Troy Weaver genuinely wants? But the question is, guys, first of all, is this a trade that the Pistons should be seeking out? What type of, what type of actual return would you accept for Bojan? And should the Pistons try to be selling a guy like Bojan when they just signed him to an extension, when, seemingly next year is the year that we've talked about the Pistons potentially turning the corner, and next year kind of being when, they wanted to have a little bit of an older roster, and they've talked about how you can't just have a team full of young players. I want to start with you, Jeff, because we talked a little bit before the pod, and I don't want to give it away, but you think a little bit differently than Troy and I do on this one. So I want to start with you. Jeff, why do you feel that the Pistons need to strike while the iron's hot?
Well, a couple reasons. Number one, Bojan, I got a lot of love for him. It's been great. And you could see him blending and what he does for the guys, not just on the court, but off the court. There's a lot of things that Bojan brings that I don't think gets talked about enough, like leadership. If you watch his post-game press conferences, he's always complimenting the young guys. He's been a leader of this team this year. So, again, his role going forward and what I think about Bojan, a lot of it has to do with Bojan's age, which that's one of my concerns. He's 33. He's going to be 34 in a couple months. Next season, you're going to have Cade and Ivy, really the first season playing together. We'll see what the Pistons do this offseason. I'm assuming, and we all are as well, they're going to improve. But what are those expectations next year? Let's say it's a play-in tournament or something around that. So let's say you play with Bojan next year. Now the following season, now he's 35. So with a guy like Bojan, what you'd be paying him and versus what his role is. I just think with the productivity he's giving you this year, maybe his value's at an all-time high rather than waiting a year or two to trade him. Maybe his role shrinks, and he's not as a hot commodity as he is right now. So that's where I'm leading. But at the same time, I'm being tugged because I appreciate the veteran presence this team has. Like Alec Burks, that's another guy I don't want to trade. Like Bojan, I'm kind of in the middle with, but at the same time, if Troy can flip Bojan, and let's say you get a first-round pick, or you get a first-round pick and maybe a young player, which that would be incredible. Who knows if he can flip that into something else? Like maybe you use that to go acquire a star, or like there's so many possibilities I see on the table. It's hard for me to answer right now. But if Troy makes the move, I won't blame him, because at the end of the day, for an aging player who's playing some of his best basketball of his career, his value right now might be the highest. And again, for a team that's young and still probably 2 years away from legitimately trying to contend for the playoffs, maybe next year they get the play in. I just see that as the route to go. But at the same time, if he's here, I won't be upset.
Right. Troy, I didn't want to tip the cap too much, but you and I are on a little bit of a different line of thinking. And I want you to kind of start and explain, because I think, a lot of people, again, like, and there's a lot of validity to that argument. Again, a guy, in his early to mid 30s, who's playing the best basketball of his career, is on a team that isn't particularly trying to win games down the stretch. There's a lot of teams that are clearly interested in getting this guy. But at the same time, it's hard to tell what reports are smoke and what reports are legitimate. I mean, I just pulled up a report of Bojan right now, and tell me this doesn't sound like the Jeremy Grant reports of last year, just replaced with Bojan. Lakers believe a package of Patrick Beverley, Kendrick Nunn, and a first-round pick is too high for Bojan. It's like, that just sounds like the THT Nunn in a first conversation we were having last year. Like that's where we have to have a conversation and say, okay, I agree that you want to make sure that you're maximizing the assets that you have in house. But it has to be, if you're going to make the deal, you have to be sure of the value that you're getting in return. At least that's where I want to start it. But Troy, what are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought up last year, because I think if you look at the stats from last year, Jeremy Grant and Bojan, similar numbers. I think Bojan probably a little more on the scoring side of things, a little bit higher. But here's the thing,
Definitely.
We're at what? Are we at 11 or 12 wins so far this season?
We're at about 11.
11. Okay. I give probably half of those wins credit to Bojan. I really do. He's a guy that's played well. Now, that's not the reason to keep him. I know we're still in that rebuilding season. That's not the direction I'm wanting to go with this conversation. But there comes a point, and Sean, we mentioned this earlier before the pod, there comes a point where we can't just rely on young players anymore and keep building young players. And that's kind of where my head is at with things. And I think of, guys like Cade Cunningham, Sadiq Bey, Isaiah Stewart, that a great core to build around, right? A great core to put pieces there together. You want all the talent in the world around those guys, especially Cade and Ivy, I would say. Actually, probably your two biggest ones. And I just feel like a guy like Bojan, as a seasoned vet, we've already seen him play well. We've already seen him be a leader in the locker room. And like you said earlier, Sean, to trade Bojan and hope that we get a first-round pick with an upside as a Jalen Duren, to me, isn't realistic. Now, I know it's hard to say because of last year. We did do that exact same thing with flipping Jeremy Grant essentially for
and
Jalen
with Troy
Duren.
Weaver's pass. Like it is hard to look at a first-round pick in Troy Weaver's hands and not go,
I get that argument. I get that argument. But there's just it's a gamble to me. It's a gamble that I'm not willing to pay. And I just feel like he has been too valuable already this season to just move part ways with. Now, a guy, if you want to change the conversation here, a guy like Alec Burks, I would actually be a little more open with trading him and seeing his value at the deadline a lot more than I would with Bojan.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting conversation, right? Because I think, I don't really agree with the you'd be stupid to or you'd be stupid not to. Like, I think, I don't think
arguments on both sides.
Yeah, I think there's validity to both points, but I think again, the true reality of it is, if you're gonna trade Bojan, you got to have a better reason than we just need as many first-round picks as we can have.
Right.
Because at a certain point, when you're building a basketball team, you need players on the court that are good now. Not like you when you're building a young team and you are trying to make a push for something like a play-in, you need to have savvy veterans that can help bring those young guys up alongside them, right? And there's a lot of conversation of, oh, well, Bojan, there's no guarantee he can do this again next year. Would we need him to next year? I mean, let's say a scenario, the Pistons get a top 3 pick. They're getting one of the Thompson twins, Victor Wembanyama or Scoot Henderson. And then in addition, you have all the cap space this offseason or whatever potential moves you make. Bojan might be a bench player. Are you telling me Bojan, 20 minutes off the bench, not necessarily having to go out and be the number 1 guy on a team each and every night? That to me, that's where we shift. Cause I know you brought up earlier too, Jeff, well, what about the finances of it? You want to make sure that you're getting you're getting the value of what he's worth. But as the new media deals coming up in the next couple of years, in the grand scheme of things, Bojan's contract's it's like a gust in the wind.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I get that. I mean, in a couple of years, the more players you acquire, you're going to have to eventually extend them. And by the time you make that decision on Bojan, it might fit the timeline. So I don't think it'll affect them financially. I could definitely see arguments for both sides. The big thing for me with Bojan, and you already hit on it, Sean, is he the starter when this team is contending or at least trying to make a deep playoff run? I would say no. I don't think he would be. But again, to your point, it doesn't have to be. I mean, he could be a significant piece to come off your bench. The only problem is, and he was signed to a 2-year extension?
Yep. So I have the numbers up here right now. So technically right now he would be signed through 24-25, and it would be about $20 million per season.
Okay. And the problem, so if you don't trade him now, the only thing is you're probably keeping him because as his role decreases, once Cade gets back, you expect Ivy to take the next step. I mean, Bojan's role is going to, I wouldn't say dramatically decrease, but he's not going to give you 20 a night.
Well, and here's my question again with the Jeremy thing, because there was this conversation about last year about how you have to trade him before the deadline. Do you?
No, you don't have to. I'm not saying you have to trade him before I would be okay trade him before the draft too.
Right, 100%. That's what I'm saying is I think there's a lot of people you'd be stupid to not trade him before the deadline. The Pistons are on their own timeline. They can 100%. I would be more open to maybe make this type of move in the summer if this was something that was a part of something larger and more grand. If the deals that I have a problem with, and I think this is where I want to more so have the discussion, the conversations of making deals with teams say Milwaukee for 2027 first round picks. And I understand that and I understand you can take those picks and you can package those in trades, but those picks, like the Lakers 2027 or 2029, if we're going to get a pick in return, it either needs to be something they can capitalize on now, or it needs to be something that has enough value that can be traded.
No, you hit on it. And that's where I am too. By trading them, I have to see what you would acquire. I'm not saying trade them like that Milwaukee pick. I saw that floating around. I'm like, no, absolutely not. I'm not trading for a pick that's 4 years away.
And that's the thing. All the rumors are all just literally,
it's all contenders, and they have no assets. Most of them don't really have assets.
Right. Really, the only things that are you could legitimately look at. I know Cleveland is one that people are throwing out quite a bit, but do you really want to make Cleveland stronger? Do you really want to give we're talking about this team wanting to turn a corner? You want to give that team Bojan?
Yeah, and
are you out of your damn mind?
And real quick too, Troy, I just want to say this, and the point you brought up about waiting till the summer, that's probably the most ideal situation, because you never know who's going to ask out, or you never know who's going to be available during that time. So
especially the day before the draft.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Hey, there you go, Troy. And maybe you can get another pick in, top 10, whatever it is. Not saying you should, but these are the options Troy has. So I would feel a lot better waiting, knowing Troy and how he can sit there and really feel out all his options rather than just coming to a deal at the deadline just to tank. I don't. The Pistons are going to stink on their own. I don't need to trade Bojan to stink more.
Right. Like they're not trying to tank. They're just not that good.
You don't have to trade them right now.
By the way, can I say something? Can I say a really quick pet peeve of mine?
Sure.
A lot of people on Twitter are like, oh man, Dwayne Casey's tanking. These guys are tanking. No one in a locker room, or no one in a court, no one in a coaching office, none of those guys are tanking. You want to see
players don't tank, organizations tank.
Exactly. Front offices tank. GMs tank. Ownership tanks. You want to see proof of that? Lovie Smith just won a game in the NFL yesterday and got fired for it.
I defended him today too. I hear you, Sean. You're spot on.
Went for it on
I'm like, you're not telling him, man. At the end of the day, those wins and losses are assigned to those coaches' records. Like, I'm not gonna. Why would I have?
That's their resume.
Who's going to fire me for my record, my coaching record? Get the hell out of here.
Yeah, that's their resume.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Yeah, but anyway, back to. But those are the things. Like, I understand that it's like, oh well, like it's not like we're gonna be like a finals team next year. It's like, I'm not saying that either, but like, if you are like trying to think of if you do want to like think of yourself in that echelon at some point, you have to like consider what that is something you do have to consider, like who you're giving the player to, right? Like Utah wouldn't make that deal with the Lakers that they made with the Pistons for Bojan. No chance. Right. And there's a reason.
Rivals hardly ever make those types of trades, especially in the same division.
Right. But I mean, even beyond that though, Troy, it's like the difference of not just rivalries, but like what those teams are out to do. Like, it's one thing if they were to trade Bojan to the Sacramento Kings, who are just trying to make a playoff push or in the Western Conference. You only see them twice a year. Like the odds of them truly hurting you are low. Whereas if you trade them to Cleveland, they play you 4 times a year on top of the possibility of a playoff series or a play-in tournament spot. Like, that's something that could genuinely hurt you down the road.
Yeah.
And that's something that that's something that could cost you a play-in spot a year. And I don't want to sound like paranoid. I'm not saying you don't ever trade with your rivals.
Right.
What I'm saying is, if you're going to, it damn better be worth it. And that's where my question is with teams like Cleveland. Where's the assets? Who do they have? They just traded everybody to Utah.
Right. Yeah. Isaac Okoro.
Maybe Isaac Okoro and like a first, but again, when's Cleveland's first available first trade?
Right. Yeah. Their first pick in the draft would be like the 24th pick. Right.
But again, Troy, they just traded with Utah.
Right.
So when's their next first round pick?
Yeah.
What year is their next first round pick?
Right.
I don't know. You know what I'm saying? That's, and again, if we're going to talk about, and that's where, there was even someone that heard, saw me have this take on Twitter. I don't understand people that are saying that we want to bring back this whole roster next year. And it's like, well, no, that's not what I'm saying. This roster is definitely going to have some overhaul and needs to have some overhaul and needs to change before next year. But I am saying, and I will say right now, that this would not be a bottom 3 team in the East and a bottom team in the NBA if Cade was healthy, if Killian was playing like this, and if everyone was ready to go from opening night, this team would not be this way. I stand by that.
Yep. No, I would agree.
With the potential we've seen, this team looks like a Cade Cunningham away from actually being legitimately competitive on a night-to-night basis. So that's all I'm saying is that I think with the Cade injury, that's another element to this, and maybe that's a way to close this conversation. I think a lot of people with Cade being out and with the losing streaks and with this team making a lot of mistakes and looking young, I think a lot of people are seeing how bad the team is right now and are forgetting how good we're going to be very soon, or how much potential there is to be very good very soon. Like, it's almost like people forget that Cade's going to be back opening night next year. That, that we have a potential top 3, top 5 pick in this upcoming year's draft. One of the greatest of all time draft classes, which we are going to start diving into heavily on this channel over the next couple of weeks and over the next few months. So you're going to want to be here for that. Like, again, this team, the more, like, I get the I get the worries and I get the concern, but this team isn't in dire circumstances.
No, I don't think so. I think the real question, and this is something that I'm glad we have Troy Weaver at the helm to answer these, is does the Cade injury change the timeline in any way? With him not being available for the entire season with Jaden Ivey, because those guys still need to be able to play together. Like, we haven't really seen an entire season. So that's the question that Troy has to answer. And if these guys click faster than anybody would have thought next season, and you have Bojan, maybe let's roll. Let's try and contend for a play-in. But if it does slow those things down a little bit,
hey, that's a good question.
To be fair, at the beginning of the season when Cade was healthy, they weren't good either. So, there was that gelling. They had to be they didn't get that this year, unfortunately.
I know you can't compare the summer with the regular season, but at the same time, you do have all summer to play pickup games. You do have time to talk, and so it's not like it's a total first time in over a year, in October. So,
and the other thing to consider as well is that when both Cade and Ivy show up next season, they're not going to be the same Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey that we're seeing right now. The reality of it is, they're both going to have a full summer to work on their games, to grow and to get better. And so this will be year 2 Jaden Ivey, essentially year 2 Cade Cunningham being able to play together. And to me, that's where the difference is sure, you're still going to have those struggles and those growing pains. Those are certainly going to be there. But at the same time, even though that progress might have been stunted slightly, the rest of the roster is still making massive improvements. I mean, Isaiah Stewart over the last month has proved himself to be a legitimately awesome NBA player and a true piece that seemingly is going to be a long-time NBA stud on playoff teams, whether it's in Detroit, whether wherever this guy is going to be, he's going to be on winning teams. That's just the way he plays hoops. And then we talked about Killian Hayes last week in the Goran Dragic comparison. This guy straight up has just been Goran Dragic the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. Playing well.
Yeah. It's been unbelievable.
The evolution of his scoring this year has just been literally night and day. It's so fun to see, because that was one of his biggest upsides as far as what draft gurus were talking about in the 2020 draft, is how efficient of a scorer he is. And just, it'll be tough for him to translate, but the sky's the limit with his scoring in the NBA. And then we were kind of just scratching our heads the first couple of years. But then this year we're seeing a little more of that. And he's only 21 years old.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, 100%, dude. It's crazy. Guys, I want to shift the conversation. There's been a metric ton of crazy performances over the last couple of weeks.
A week ago tonight was Donovan Mitchell, 71.
71 points from Donovan Mitchell after Luka scored 63, after LeBron scored 54, which Clay also scored 54. The amount the amount of scoring games that have been going on lately has been crazy. And there's been a lot of conversation I've been seeing about, first of all, what's the secret? You're what's the reason? Why is this happening? What's with this scoring surge? And also, is this a good thing for basketball? Is this something that are we seeing defense fail fundamentally? I personally feel we're just seeing and I feel we've talked about this a lot in this pod. I just think we're seeing the evidence of how many special players we have in this league compared to what we used to. Because the amount of guys that are able to do this that are able to have these types of outbursts. The league has never had this scale or this abundance of talent. It just hasn't.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of things, honestly, to unpack. A big one for me, I think it's, especially in today's age, the skill set these guys possess, it's instilled that in them from an early age. Like, you have to grow up and you have to be able to do everything. Like, it isn't like back in the day where you have a role, you're going to rebound. You're going to maximize your role. In today's game, you got to be able to shoot, handle the ball, pass, rebound, play good defense. Like, now guys are coming out much more seasoned than they used to be. And then now you look at the rules, how the rules have changed. The pace is quicker. You can't play defense like you used to. So there's a lot of things that have changed. The biggest thing for me, and I guess the biggest joy I've had is being able to watch these guys, because how the game has progressed throughout the years till right now, and how guys were able to do so many different things. Like watching Luka, it does give you the remnants of Bird. You get to see him, but he takes it to a whole new level. Like, there's things Luka's doing. And now you're seeing Donovan last week at 70 and Clay get 54 after coming off two catastrophic injuries. Like, things you just typically would not see back in the day. It's happening more often, and that's part of the game just simply developing, along with a lot of other changes of the game over the years.
Yeah. I mean, guys, this is from The Athletic. They did a whole article about this, trying to make sense of it all. Just through January 8th, there's already been 14 50-point games.
Yeah.
There were 19 last season alone. There were 14 in the 2020-21 season alone.
Yeah. It probably just goes down from there.
I remember as a kid dropping my jaw when a guy would drop more than 40 points in a game. Like, how rare that would be, right?
Yeah.
This season alone, there have been like on top of the 14 50-point games, like there have been 77 40-point games on top of that.
Yeah.
So 91 different guys have 91 different performances of at least 40 points.
And think about that for a second too. Everything I just said, sprinkle on there now the importance of the 3-point line and what you have to do. I mean, Donovan Mitchell and his performance, how many threes did he take and make, by the way? I mean, you could get Klay Thompson and what he did. You think he took like 25 threes when he had 54. It's like things you just simply would not see. The biggest stat that always, it's mind-boggling for me is, as great as Michael Jordan is, he's the GOAT. How many 60-point games does he have? Like, think about that for a second. And then compare it to guys and how many you see nowadays. It's unreal. And again, it's part of the game developing. I mean, some old, I guess you say old heads or whatever, I don't know if that's disrespectful, might not like it, but hey, offense sells. And guys like this, if you can go get a bucket and get 50, 60, it's a big deal.
Yeah, in my opinion, it's just another reason why you should love the NBA, because of the high quality talent. And I guess, kind of shifting gears a little bit, but looking at, some of the different levels of basketball. I'm going to start with high school basketball. High school basketball is actually a little bit down as far as talent, as far as players, I think, in the past 20 to 30 years. College, I guess it's hard to say because every year is a little bit different. So if you look at those two, leagues nationwide, there isn't a ton of difference. And if there's any, it's actually a downgrade, little bit difference over the past, again, 20 to 30 years. But the NBA skyrocketing, which to me shows that it's a very small individual number of players who are just better than what we've seen before versus the massive amount of people who play the game of basketball and are good
even
at
the role players, even having guys like Kevin Herter in the 90s were all-stars.
Right.
In the modern league, he's just like another guy.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because he's like one of the best 3-point shooters in the league.
Shows you that the top 400 in the world, the top 400 players in the world in the game of basketball are at an all-time high. Now, again, like your top 1,000 high school players in the country, a little worse than your top 1,000 players from, again, 20 years ago. College, again, a little bit hard to say, but imagine a small bit worse. But NBA, skyrocketing. So it's a very small amount of people who are playing the game so efficiently, but the ones that we're watching, the ones that we're falling in love with their game, it just makes all the difference in the world.
Well, think about this too, guys. The reach of the game, like the amount of like this summer, or like this past year, we've been talking all about the French kid that's about to be coming over, right?
Yeah, right.
You know, Luka. We obsess about Luka Doncic, the kid from Serbia. There's Giannis Antetokounmpo from Greece, right? There's you know,
Jokic.
all these different players and all like Nikola Jokic, right? Like they're like just the amount of talent that is being produced from all around the world. Like it's changed. Like it has got like obviously America's still the number one NBA, you know, producer of NBA talent. It always is going to be it always has been, always will be, right? But the sheer amount of talent out there is just unmatched. And yeah, I think going forward, like I used to think we're never going to see a 100-point game. We're going to see a 100-point game.
Yeah. And think about these kids too, playing, whether it's AAU or playing at some of the best private schools in the country. These games are broadcasted on TV.
Yeah.
Like, these guys are playing on big stages so early. You're playing against some of the best players. I mean, you're seeing more 6'6", 6'7" point guards ever than you used to.
Yeah.
I mean, back then it was like, oh, Magic Johnson. Like, this is a freak of nature. Now it's like, oh yeah, he's 6'6", he can pass, shoot, he can do it all.
And if like in AAU, they're in school leagues, or they're in travel leagues, or they're at like there are specific, like back in the day, like Michael Jordan just went to high school. Like he went to his high school,
and you play different sports. Like you play all kinds of different sports. Now it's like you could play basketball all year technically.
Well, not only that,
high school.
Now like Cade, he went to Montverde, which is a school that specializes in producing professional athletes. Like there are literally schools for training pros now. Like that, like everything's changed.
Yeah. And to Jeff's point, you know, you said about the 6'6" point guard who can do it all, and it's kind of just like, yeah, whatever. Not just that, but if you can't do that at that level, you're not going very far in basketball. Like, it's that.
Even then, if it's gotten to the point now where if you're 6'11" and you can't either consistently block shots, consistently get rebounds, or shoot a three, you're not getting a damn minute on the court.
Hey, go drop Stanley Johnson back in the 80s. I think he'd have a roster spot right now. But like like no one sees value in
He's on the Spurs.
No, I'm saying like he'd have significant playing time on a roster.
He's on the Spurs, right, Sean? He's on the Spurs, not the
Spurs roster. He might not be back next year with. But the point is, players now are just, they're valued differently. Like what we expect out of players, to your point, Troy, it's like, hey, can you do everything? Pretty much. I mean, your role might not be that, but you got to be able to do multiple things. Back then, it's like, all right, you're a really good rebounder, you're a really good shooter, you're a really good passer. It's like, no, we got guys pretty much that can do everything. That's the goal of the NBA.
Right. And, you know, like, again, like I do think that we will see defense tighten down as the season winds down. I do think, you know, some of it is, it is that point in the season where it's kind of that awkward, like, you know, it's not quite the all-star break, but players are sure itching for it. You know, we're kind of like just after Christmas, just before the deadline. Teams are still trying to figure out who they are. Teams are trying to figure out if they even want to keep this roster together. Like this is just like a time of year where there always seems to be weird things happening in the league. And this year, it's just freakishly insane performances night after night after night after night. And, you know, like Donovan Mitchell, statistically, between his points and assists, like everything that he did was technically the third highest scoring output by a player ever.
Yeah.
Third highest scoring output ever.
Yeah.
That was technically the third greatest performance in NBA history. And happened a week ago.
And they had to win in overtime, right? It wasn't like a blowout win, or it wasn't like a dominant team performance. I mean, you had to win in overtime, you know?
What was impressive about it, by the way? Yeah. No Darius Garland, no Evan Mobley.
Right. Now you could make the argument more touches, but
Well, I mean, he had to though, right? Like he was,
they needed every single point.
They literally needed all of that 71. on a hot dog bun Chicago Bulls team.
Yeah.
Oh God, Billy Donovan. This is the direction all sports are going. I mean, let's be honest. Whether it's football, hockey, baseball, the whole point of any sport to sell it is offense, 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 offense. The NFL now, you're seeing higher scoring games. Like at the end of the day, it's business. I mean, they got rid of a lot of the rules or the things you used to do back in the day, and people might not like it. But for a guy off the street who's never watched the NBA and he sits down and watches Donovan Mitchell get 70, I mean, it's just entertaining. That's what sells.
I mean, I'm gonna be real. I've gone back and I've watched, some mid 2000s basketball. That's the era I grew up on, right?
Same.
And I have a massive amount of love for that game and for that era. This league I'm watching now is far better than the league I was watching as a kid. It's not even close.
Yeah.
The amount of talent on each team is unreal. I couldn't imagine this type of thing. Do you remember when we were kids, Troy? Like 10 years ago, I remember when it was like the one and done thing. It almost felt like half of the one and done prospects were all busts. Now it kind of feels weird if a one and done guy doesn't work.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean? Like, especially like a top one and done guy. It's
right. I mean, really your top 5 picks in the past, let's just say 3 drafts, besides maybe Suggs, maybe Wiseman, have all Patrick Williams have all turned out to be really good players. And even those 3 I named, they're not like
pretty good.
They're not Kwame Brown busts,
right.
Like they're fine players. It's just they're probably not, top 5 material.
But at the end of the day, though, those guys were coming into a league that wasn't very friendly to players that were young. Like nowadays, Shaedon Sharpe, who I love and we covered a lot during the draft, he took a year off of basketball and then just walked in the NBA and he's having a pretty good rookie year. Like it doesn't really make sense, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. I mean, Shaedon Sharpe back in the 80s, they'd probably be slamming him when he goes up in the air with his 45-inch vertical. He's probably getting checked midair. Yeah. Now it's just kind of like, hey, go dunk, Shaedon. We love it. Now he's going to the dunk contest.
Well, in the reality, the reality of it is, Jeff, on our end, it looks like what the heck? He just rolls in and is successful. But the truth of the matter is these teams are so well staffed, have so many great coaches, nutritionists, like equipment, just the different that just again the resources that are available to these guys just wasn't available in the past. Like just everything about the game has evolved to a different level, and so. I think with that, you're just going to see some different changes. But with that, guys, I do want to like real quick, what has been over like the last week or so, what has caught your eye in the NBA world? Like stories that fascinate you, teams that you've been enjoying watching, situations that you have certain opinions on, concerns that you're starting to raise. I'll say personally, it has just come to my attention. I knew the Suns are struggling with Devin Booker out, but the Phoenix Suns are currently 1 game under 500 and are technically now in the play-in tournament. And by the way, the Golden State Warriors are now in the 6th seed. Technically would not be a play-in team. So this Suns team is free falling, and Chris Paul can do nothing to save them because as great as Chris Paul is, he's a 37-year-old point guard in his 18th season.
That's too bad because even last year we had such high hopes for them. At least I did. And then to get bounced there in the second round in a game 7, a blowout game 7, that really could have been a great win for your franchise. Just that totally wrecked them in every way, shape, or form. And all the drama with Ayton in the offseason, signed with the Pacers here in Indy, and then the Suns matched it and gave him, a little bit too much money, in my opinion, to go back. It wasn't there. But for me, Dallas. I'm loving what I'm seeing with Luka. I know he didn't play last night against OKC, but sources report that the Mavs are probably going to part ways with Christian Wood, which is going to make a really
whoa, not that. Okay, that's not what they said. The report said that if they can't come to terms on a new deal, then they will reportedly look to move him. So it looks like they might be looking to talk with Christian Wood about a contract extension. However, in my opinion, if there's talks about the fact that he'd be moved if they don't agree on an extension, that means they probably don't really want to sign him to an extension.
Right. And so, I wouldn't either if I'm GM there, because we've had plenty of conversations. I feel like you need another guy that's a little more better than Christian Wood as your second option on that team.
But the question, like who though? Like they could, like they've just
that's the mystery.
They've pinned themselves in so many crappy corners. This is another team, by the way, that I've heard been thrown out there for Bojan, I believe. And I heard a trade package, like sending back Davis Bertans. And I'm like, guys, what are we doing here? like what rumors are we listening to?
We gotta block those people.
Yeah, 100%.
But they got to do something at the deadline, in my opinion. You can't not do anything at the deadline. But also, what are you going to do? That's the question.
Yeah, for sure. I'll say they're to me, Dallas is going to be a looming storyline over the next few years because, man, they better not waste Luka. But Jeff, what's been your storyline, man?
It's got to be the roller coaster of a season it's been for the Brooklyn Nets, the team that was 8-10. Now are 27-12. They're second in the East, or 27-13, excuse me. They are 9-1 over the last 10. Now KD
out for a month.
MCL injury. Like, you start off 8-10, you go on this run, you're 27-13, and now you're probably going to lose a handful of games now without KD. So the Nets are the most intriguing to me because it's always a team when it was first assembled that I thought, hey, they lack leadership, is a clear problem with this team. They still got a lot of potential, and they never lived up to it, even with Harden. So I'm curious, especially when Kevin Durant comes back, what the Nets end up doing moving forward, because they are extremely top heavy. And if you watch Nets games, besides KD or Kyrie, Ben Simmons, I mean, that is probably arguably the worst contract in the NBA. You can make a serious argument for what he's given. He's been solid for the Nets, but he ain't worth that contract. So the Nets, to me, are an intriguing storyline. And yes, a lot of it has to do with Kyrie and KD, because those guys are, I mean, if you pay attention to the media, those guys are always in it.
Davis Bertans would like a word with you on that worst contract in the league. No, I'm just kidding. There are a lot of players that are up for that discussion.
Tobias, even too, you could throw in there, even though he's a good addition to Sixers. I think it's a little high, high.
Oh yeah. I mean, he's not a max like that. Like, that's the thing. He was never a max contract guy. Like, I love Tobias, but there's levels to this, right? Like, if you're gonna pay someone max dollars, you're saying this guy has a chance to be an all-star. Do you think that Tobias Harris is something even close to an all-star?
Or would you rather have Ben Simmons as 7, 6, and 6 a game in 30 minutes?
That still wins in my opinion.
Who will not shoot? I mean, there you go.
Dude, I was just scrolling, and dude, NBA Twitter is just undefeated. I just love seeing people just making fun of this Bulls team. It's like DeMar DeRozan when Zach LaVine is open. I know the Bulls are technically on like a little like win streak right now, but this, there's just so many teams that like I tune into, and it's like I want to like what you guys have going on.
I know.
But Jesus Christ, you guys got to change what's up here, because this is a wreck.
Yeah, Zach LaVine is one of those players that selfishly, because I actually enjoy watching him play basketball, that I hope is moved at the deadline or something. I mean, that man, I love watching Zach LaVine, but my God, I think he joins history with like 3 career 10+3 games. I forgot who else is, obviously Steph Curry, but I forgot who else is in that category. Like, Zach LaVine's a good player, and him and DeMar, I don't know. I'm gonna go with the answer I've gone with for weeks now. Billy Donovan. I don't know. That's what I got.
It's like, you know what? It's Billy Donovan.
I don't have an answer.
My 50 to Boston right now has to be because of Billy Donovan.
He's probably doing his best, man. But you know what? I don't know. I got to blame
somebody. Billy Donovan's best isn't good enough.
Man, he's catching praise
becomes the Billy Donovan hate podcast.
I don't know where my hate for Billy Donovan came from. I honestly, we talked about firing him one time on the pod. Ever since then, every time I'm watching the Bulls, I'm like, you son of a gun, Billy Donovan.
And I'm pretty sure it was you that brought it up. Like, you were like, they got to fire him. And I was like, and you're like, I know, you got to fire him.
Yeah, I'm a douchebag. I can't lie.
You're just like, ship his ass.
He played in the league. Did you guys know that? He played in the league.
Did he?
Yeah. He was a backup for the Jazz for 3 seasons.
Oh, yeah. He would be a backup for the Jazz. that looks like him. Anyway, Jeff.
Mormon.
Jeff, I want to know what you have for us this week as far as the segment goes. We were last week. I forgot. Were we firing people last week?
We were firing people last week. Oh, we're trading people this week.
Okay.
So we're putting on our GM hat, but this time not to fire a head coach.
And are we doing it under the Pistons perspective?
No, this is more league wide. I want to get your guys' thoughts because the trade deadline is in a month, and some interesting players that aren't being shopped actively, but you never know. But if you're the general manager of these two organizations, and I'll start with the first one, and I've already kind of alluded to it, and it's actually one I was going to bring up to you guys as well. If you're the Chicago Bulls, what are you doing with Zach LaVine, man? Or DeMar DeRozan? Are you trading these guys away and blowing that thing up, or are you keeping at least one of them? And if you're keeping one, which one are you keeping?
God, I'm hitting that eject button as soon as I possibly can. Dear Lord, I mean, which one do you trade? Both. I mean, what can I? I'm calling every single team in the league, and I'm asking what is the best offer you would give me right now for each of these players. Like, now I'm comparing, and I think with DeMar, I think he's a guy that here's a guy, but he's in a situation, expiring contract, veteran that can play with a young team that's fiery and hungry and wants to get into the play-in tournament. He can go and play. He can go and contribute on a championship team that's looking to contend. He's the type of guy where he can go anywhere. And with Zach LaVine, I think it's really difficult because I think the Bulls are in a really crappy situation where I don't think they're going to ever get back what they would want for Zach LaVine in return because of the injury, because of the contract, because of his age, because of the circumstance, and because of the reality that he's not a number one guy. He's probably not even a number two guy. He's probably ideally a third best. He's probably your third scoring option on a championship team. If we're truly being real about Zach LaVine, right? So I don't know what their best market is. However, I think we've seen the best of what the roster they have right now is. So for me with the Bulls, I know we've talked about blowing it up before, but with Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan, I especially DeMar DeRozan, I think you can really get some value. I think Zach LaVine, I think you just got to see what you can get.
Yeah.
Because that's the tricky thing. Because a team will have to take the bet. Do you think that he can overcome this knee thing? Do you what's exactly going on there,
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. And if I'm Chicago, I'm not sure if I'm going to get the best value as them as a package, but I certainly want to trade both of them. Especially
I don't see them being a package. I think you'd have to ship them individually.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I have to trade both because DeMar's not getting any younger. Now we saw a great year last year, not as great this year, and I just feel like you never want to build around a guy in their 30s, in my opinion, unless it's a can't miss, unless it's a LeBron or a Kobe or whatever, or KD, then you might have to. But if you're a DeMar DeRozan, I don't think you want to. And I also want to maybe throw
at this stage of a career, though, is anyone trading for him to build around him? Or
no, I'm just saying on Chicago's perspective. I'm not saying trade him to be for another team. I'm saying for Chicago's perspective, putting in young pieces to surround him isn't the brightest idea. But I'm also throwing Patrick Williams in there too. He's just not the player that they drafted or that they hoped to when they drafted him. So I'm actually putting all three. I'm calling all the GMs like Sean said, and I'm trying to move all three because I think blowing this thing up is the wisest thing. Because at best case scenario for the Chicago Bulls with this current roster, in my opinion, is a 10th seed in the play-in, and you're not even going to go any far in that.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of those things where. So they're essentially in a situation where either they can tank to put themselves in a position where they can maybe keep their pick for this draft, and if they get the pick in this year's draft, they don't get next year's pick, or they lose this year's pick, and then they get their pick next year. So if you really think about it, if they blow it up now, either you have a lottery, you got a lottery ticket and hit the jackpot in one of the greatest draft lotteries perhaps in the history of the league, or you're just starting what is clearly the inevitable. Right? Like, this Chicago team has no future, especially with Lonzo's situation.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Oh God. Like, we have no clue when that
hasn't it been officially 365 days since we've seen.
Oh yeah. It's been over.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I would agree with both of you guys. Listen, I would ship everybody out of a rocket in Chicago. Just get them all out. I mean, you're approaching a rebuild. I'm not just using rocket as an NBA.
Don't even give Billy Donovan oxygen.
That's another team.
You could put Billy Donovan on that rocket. Ship everybody out of Chicago. Yeah, they're in a rebuild. I'm with you guys. Trade them both. See what you can get for them. But moving on, another player I want to bring up. And, man, this organization we've thrown a lot of strays at, and rightfully so because of the moves they've made, specifically this offseason, acquiring Rudy Gobert. Probably arguably one of the worst trades.
Rudy Gadget Gobert.
Rudy Gadget Gobert. I mean, the amount of picks, assets the Timberwolves give up, they're kind of strapped right now. You're not getting rid of Gobert. He's getting older. They're in a tough predicament. You're trying to build around Anthony Edwards. You have all these assets, D'Angelo Russell, Karl Anthony Towns, but your most tradable asset and probably your most intriguing asset, and I don't know if the fit works with Rudy Gobert, is Karl Anthony Towns. And if you're the Minnesota Timberwolves, are you picking up the phone for Cat? Or you could go the other route and say, no, I want to stick this thing out. I want to continue to build around Karl Anthony Towns. What would you do if you're the Minnesota Timberwolves GM?
Troy, I'll let you start on this one.
Yeah, I think the problem, though, with trying to build around Cat is there's not a lot of wiggle room to even do that. I'm not sure how much of an option that really is for them. I am picking up the phone and making phone calls for Cat if I'm the Timberwolves. I think you can get a lot out of him, but at the end of the day, they put themselves in the situation with signing Gobert to that nasty contract. A guy that
they didn't sign him to the contract. They gave up 7 picks to acquire that contract.
Sure.
They said, "Come here."
They said, "How can we sign up to get that contract?"
One of those things where you're pinned up against a corner and you only have one way out, and it's a bad way out, but it's still a way out. It's like jumping out of the window in a 10-story building. You might survive, but it's better than getting murdered in your room. That was a weird analogy, but I'm trading Cat. I'm trading.
All right. So, do you want me to tell you what I think they should do, or what the Minnesota Timberwolves general manager is going to do?
Well, you're going to do should because you're competent. The GM. You're the GM for the day.
You're a competent GM, Sean. So
I'm competent. Who's been the one that's been ringing this damn alarm bell since last July? Who's the person that before the season even began came and said, guys, Karl Anthony Towns could potentially be traded? And it's like, I don't know. Like, that seems like pretty extreme. I'm like, if it goes bad, trust me, it's not even the first trade deadline with them playing together, or we're already talking about it as a possibility. If you're Minnesota, the amount of assets that you've put in to this project, you have to at least see through a full season, because it would be all like the lack of confidence, or like the vote of confidence or lack thereof, you would be putting in your team that quickly into making that deal, I think could potentially wreck a culture that's already on the ropes.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, that's why they have to massage it super quickly. Because remember now, no matter what they do with like Cat or like whatever decisions they make, you know who's not going to be moved? Rudy Gobert. Because that contract ain't going nowhere. The other thing, they have D'Angelo Russell that they would love to trade to anybody. Can you name me a single situation or a single team that would be interested in taking on D'Angelo Russell right now?
Houston or New York.
You really think Houston would want him?
No. It's more of a joke.
He's 20. He's about to be 27. I mean, I mean,
It ain't. Good luck with that.
I just don't like anything about it. But yeah. So what the Timberwolves are gonna do is they're gonna do their damnedest to ship off D'Angelo this trade deadline. They're gonna see if they could potentially get some, solid defensive effort guys that can come and, bolster this roster, bolster this lineup. And we're in the 9th seed. We're right in the play-in mix. We can be in the playoffs. But the reality of it is this team was expecting to be at the top of the Western Conference, and they're 9th.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's, I'm kind of, and I love how you phrase it too. I would, they're in a situation where
same amount of wins as the Utah Jazz.
They're probably going to have to end up trading him, but I would probably wait till the offseason because then you get a lot more options there, and I think teams are going to kind of know where they are and where they think they're going to go, and maybe they think Karl-Anthony Towns.
Karl-Anthony Towns is like the epitome of a draft night star, like a star traded on draft night.
There you go. Yeah. So I'm with you. I would trade Karl-Anthony Towns now. A year ago, if you could go back in time and prevent this trade, maybe you don't trade them. But in the circumstances they currently have,
if they could go back, of course they would.
You got to trade them now.
They were sniffing the marker. They were sniffing the glue. That was that Memphis Minnesota series where it's like, oh, we could have got them, and it's like now, like they saw that as the sign to cash in. It's like, no, like when Michael Jordan was balling out in year 2 in Chicago, they didn't ship off seven first round picks to go and get him like an aged Kareem.
Yeah.
They said, to hell with that. We're going to build around him through the draft. We're going to do it the right way. We're going to do it slowly.
Yeah.
Instead, Alex Rodriguez comes along and says, hey, 7 first round picks. Let's ship that shit. But
anyway. It's not 3. It's not 4. It's 7.
Between players and it ends up being like 7. It hurts the soul. But Jeff, was there any other players that you wanted us to ship?
No, those are the 2 candidates today, and we shipped them all. So I'm very proud of the result today.
Perfect. I'm glad. Troy, don't think I forgot about you, my friend, because there is no other way we can end this podcast than from Mount Rushmore. My friend Troy, what do you have for us today?
I have a really fun one today, Sean. Really interesting and really unique. We've never done anything like this one before. All right, the Mount Rushmore of biggest NBA controversies of all time. Ooh. And you can add the word conspiracy theory if you would like. I know they're kind of similar words, but they're also, a little bit different in nature. I will start. Game 6 of the 2002 Western Conference Finals, Kings-Lakers. Kings have a good lead. It looks like they're coming on strong in the fourth quarter. They're up 3-2 in the series. So if they win Game 6 in LA, they win the series unless LA can force a Game 7, which would go to Sacramento. And in that fourth quarter, the Lakers shot 27 free throws. And in the whole game, I think they shot 40 free throws as a team, meaning that the refs were calling everything on the Kings. And there was an obvious offensive foul in the last minute of the game where Kobe totally decked, I think, Mike Bibby in the face. And they didn't even call an offensive when it was a clear offensive. And the controversy or conspiracy is that David Stern told the refs before the game to fix the game in the Lakers series because he could not imagine a Sacramento Kings NBA Finals because there would be a lot of lost revenue. Kobe, Shaq, Lakers would have produced a lot more popularity in the NBA. And David Stern wanted to do everything as possible and gave that authority to the refs to throw the game in favor of the Lakers. And then the Lakers won Game 6 and they won Game 7 and went on to the NBA Finals where they won as well. So to me, that has to be up there because, again, 40 free throws in the game and 27 of them coming in the fourth quarter when it's such a close series. Under those circumstances, that's one that I'm actually leaning towards yes. There might be a few others.
I don't know, man. Anytime it gets towards commissioners saying, let's fix a game, that's when it gets pretty tinfoily to me, dude. I'm not going to lie. Especially within the last 20 years, That's tinfoils are us right there. I'm not sure, dude.
Okay, I'm not saying it's over 50%, but I'll at least maybe throw a.
You literally just 20 seconds ago were like, I'm leaning yes.
I'm leaning towards
that
yes
is
for the sake of this
over
conversation.
50%.
For the sake of this argument, of course I'm going to lean towards yes. Anything above 10% of a conspiracy, I think should be leaning towards yes on this one. It might not be great math, but for the hell of the Mount Rushmore podcast, we're going to do it.
Troy, we could have a whole psychological breakdown of what we just talked about there. But I'm gonna I'm just gonna give my answer for the next Mount Rushmore of NBA controversies. Let's go with our good old buddy Tib Donahue, shall we?
There it is.
The man, the myth, the legend, the NBA fixerino himself, the guy who would go in and essentially would help fix NBA games, would help and make sure that certain stat lines would go in and would help essentially it's a multi-million-dollar scam. Right. It's a gigantic controversy. Netflix has an entire documentary about it. I still haven't even watched it, by the way, which I feel stupid about. That's definitely something I have to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I like in when you get to like the pockets and like when you get to because that's like a conspiracy of like did the NBA try to fix a game? This ref legitimately fixed games.
Right.
And this is a ref that
makes me a little bit thankful. I know it sounds backwards, but thankful for like FanDuel and DraftKings because that they add a more fun aspect for it where it's just, I mean, you can take it very seriously and become very dangerous, but it's more of a fun aspect versus this is a very dark side of handshake betting, illegal sports betting.
And that stuff still exists.
Mafia sports betting. Yeah.
That stuff still exists. Don't get me wrong. However, to your point, the fact that there is a much safer outlet and there is a lot of that stuff. By the way, if any of you apps want to sponsor us and give us money, let us know. But anyway, Jeff, what is your submission?
So I'm going to go with a fun local one here, and I'll lay the scene. Okay, Game 6, 1988. If you know where I'm going with this, NBA Finals. Pistons up 1, 14 seconds to go. Bill Laimbeer guarding Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. The phantom foul, which is, if you think about it in this context, Kareem hits both free throws. They end up forcing a Game 7. Yeah. The Lakers force a Game 7. They win Game 7. The Pistons would come back, get revenge, win the next 2 championships. And that one BS call might have prevented them from three-peating. Which would have been another accomplishment for a great dynasty.
You could almost put the bad boys themselves on this list if you really think about it.
Yeah,
like between the games they've been involved in, between the ruckus that the league likes to think that they've caused, that you could honestly make an argument just the bad boys as a listing. But Troy. What's your next listing?
Yeah, and quick before I get there, to Jeff's point, I think the documentary Bad Boys, I think it came out in like 2014, 2015, 30 for 30. They actually talked about that, and Bill Laimbeer talks about it, and he said at the end of the day,
our friend Terry Foster's in that. By the way.
He said at the end of the day, there were so many calls that I got away with in the playoffs and the regular season, and the fact that they called me for that one, he's like it hurts, of course, but Bill Laimbeer himself. He didn't directly say it, but it seemed like he has peace with it because of the amount of fouls he did get away with in the playoffs and regular season.
Well, you know what also makes him at peace with it a little bit too, Troy?
Yeah.
The 2 rings it's on his finger
after
now.
that.
Right. Yeah. I guess I got 2, both Michael Jordan ones at the end. I think a common one that's really floating around in the past 5 years is going to be the flu game being actually a hangover. We've heard that one. And then another one I've heard that's a little less common, and I'm a little less on board with this one because I think of
so you didn't go controversial. These are more NBA conspiracy theories.
Well, I guess, yeah. I wanted to mix
another one was Michael Jordan's dad murdered. I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Not throwing that one out there to say it disrespectfully, but
right. And I guess, this one's kind of a mix of both, leaning towards conspiracy too. But the Michael Jordan, that he was told by David Stern that he needed to retire as a suspension because of his gambling addiction getting out of hand. I've heard that one too. Yeah. But Sean, I guess, yes, I did make it a little more conspiracy based, but we got to throw in some controversies that you can name.
No, that's totally fair. That's totally fair.
You go back to like the 1980s and 90s. Look at me, like we just brought up like 5, 6, 7 controversies just strictly from those times as well. It's like, hey, imagine right now a Tim Donaghy now in the NBA. Like that would be.
But also, I mean, media is so centered on these players and coaches that you can't really get away with any conspiracy or controversy because it's just the truth is out there in the public. Right.
I mean, I mean, so you think? I mean, like that's the crazy thing. Like the Phoenix Suns organization, everything that was going on there.
Right.
Like,
sure.
Like that. That's the thing. Is like I think there's a lot. I think now more than ever there's the tools and the resources, and I think now more than ever, like we have everything in store to like hold these places accountable. But at the same time, there's some crazy owners out there, man. I'll say that.
Right. But I think I'm missing a few.
Yeah. So a couple. Yeah. So. The Malice at the Palace.
Right. Yeah. Right. With everything that went on with suspensions and just
Donald Sterling.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's a big one. Yeah.
Robert Sarver.
Yeah.
The multiple lockouts.
Oh yeah.
The NBA's relationship with China.
Big one.
There's. You could go like so.
Rudy Gobert giving everybody COVID. No.
Yeah, right. That's a controversy.
I mean, the bubble controversial.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, there's a ton of different things you could go. I mean, like controversies. Like we could go. It would be fun to go through like some of like the like most controversial calls, like most controversial like not even like worst calls, like ones that like people still debate on.
Yeah. Well, there's two that we've already brought up already. The Bill Laimbeer and Kobe's push. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, it'd be fun to go through some more of those.
Or this would be very less scale, but I know to this day Shaq still thinks that Ben Wallace fouled him with that iconic block in 2006. The Ben Wallace block in Shaq when he fell on the ground. Yeah. Less scale, but
by the way, we agree that basketball officials are far better than football officials, right?
Yeah. I guess because football, the contact, you see a lot of things now, especially with the amount of contact and
but also I have never, I'm sorry, man, the amount of incompetent refs I've seen in the NFL. The Lions are out of the playoffs because of incompetent. That's a whole other.
There's a lot of
replacement refs in 2012.
Oh my Lord, replacement refs, dude. I remember the Hail Mary, the Packers and Seahawks Monday night. Yeah, I think it was once. I think it was once Brett Favre was robbed, or was it Aaron Rodgers?
It was Aaron Rodgers. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like once Aaron Rodgers was robbed of a game, that it was like, nope, we can't do that anymore.
Hey, Rams Saints that made the PI call reviewable, like that playoff game that ultimately ended the New Orleans Saints. So like, there's a lot of things that actually changed ruls. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, and basketball too. I mean, think of Jordan rules too in a lot of ways. So.
Yeah, for sure, man. And listen, I know we have the NFL jersey on right now. I know we talk some Lions. I know we're talking a little football, but man, basketball is exciting all year round. Yeah. There's some really exciting stuff coming right around the corner. I know NBA fans, I know this is kind of like a slower time of the year in the league. It's right before the deadline. The All-Star break is coming up. But the reality of it is what we've seen over the last 2 weeks is you truly never know when you're going to see a special all-time performance, because it can quite literally happen any night now.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited to cover and talk about the next ones, because I'll bet you there'll be another 50-point game by the time the next time we do this podcast.
Okay.
Also, by the next time we do this pod, I will be in my new apartment, meaning that this apartment where I grew where I originally grew this channel, I will no longer be in. So this place was pretty meant a lot to me. So I want to kind of like quick mention that. Pretty cool thing on the new and better beginnings. But gentlemen,
absolutely,
always love doing this with you. It's great to see you guys. And I thank each and every one of you that tune in each and every week and listen to From Half Court, an NBA podcast by fans, for fans, by Detroit fans that love the game of basketball. If you like that, make sure you like this video. Be sure you subscribe to the channel. Be sure you join in the conversation down below, and you follow us on social media. My guy Jeff at Jeff Iafredi, my guy Troy at Troy3044, and your boy Sean at Sean Half Court. With that, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you guys next time from Half Court. Be sure you subscribe.